You're listening to the Shift Training Podcast, where we are focused on positively impacting the quality of human interaction. I'm your host. My name is Philip Lawrence. Please call me Law.
My name is Vaughn Aguba, and you can call me Vaughn. I'll be your co-host.
All right. So today is going to be episode 1 of season 2. And for those who weren't with us in season 1, if you were, we want to make sure that we clarify what our intention, what our aim is. And we're going to be trying a new approach on the podcast this season. So we are now going to be making sure that we clearly articulate this adventure we're on, which is the adventure of discovering and clarifying what it means or how we can improve the quality of interaction. And the reason for this is because we have a goal. We want to see people treat themselves and others better. So we are open to sitting down, discussing these various topics. We want to interview some people as well, answer some questions, and we're going to get started. So that's kind of a bit about it. Vaughn, you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this is going to be a great podcast that you're going to be listening to. So we'll be inviting some amazing guests here. And yeah.
All right, let's get started. So first things first is, how do we improve the quality of human interaction? The running thesis right now is basically you have to learn how to grow and develop yourself. And you will, along that journey, learn how to better interact with others, because that's what it means to actually grow and develop. So this might include emotional wellness. This might include physical health. This may include various topics. So today we're going to dive into a couple of topics to give an example. And we hope that you will enjoy it at the minimum, you know? So Vaughn, what do we talk about first?
Yeah, let's talk about what you just said right now in regards of if you want to interact with other people, we must first interact better within ourselves, because most individuals out there are, the way they talk to themselves is just super negative, and they talk bad, and I think that is causing them to even dig themselves further to the grave. So I think self-awareness is really important, and just reframing that negative talk to talk to yourself positively. And as we this one is not going to be easy, especially if you program yourself with just negative talks for years. Then we have to do it nice and slow, take it easy. If negative thoughts, or you have this negative talk that you develop, then it will come up. But as long as you are aware and replacing that into something that will benefit you, that will serve you.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. And that's why we talk about certain topics like that. Think about it like this. How could you possibly have good interactions with other people if you are oblivious to what you're experiencing for yourself? Let's say part of the game is when you're able to better acknowledge or understand your own situation or where you are in your own self-awareness journey, you're able to also better maybe see where other people might be and where they might struggle. You might be able to better empathize or understand or know how to relate to people who may be struggling with the same things you're struggling with.
I think, what we start doing is uploading this called How We Feel by Dr. Mark Brackett.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that is such a great tool to really understand what we're feeling. Most of us are just saying a very limited vocabulary of just sad, angry, happy. When we have a more vocabularies when it comes to our emotion, maybe we're not mad, maybe we're disappointed, maybe we're frustrated. When we're happy, what do we feel? Do we feel elated? Do we feel ecstatic? I think just having more vocabulary on that, I think it will help us understand ourselves better. Therefore, we will be able to understand other people.
Absolutely. Yeah. That app is amazing. The How We Feel app, strongly recommend it. It is great for building your emotional granularity or vocabulary. So think about it like this. If you only know how to describe a bench-like thing you sit on, it's not going to be very good for your communication with other people.
Right.
If you can be more detailed, like maybe it's a wooden bench. It's this size by this size, and it's like this, and it looks like this, and you can articulate that well, your communication goes up. And as we know, how we interact with other people is hugely influenced by our level of communication. Forgive our wind, the audio, apologies for that if we don't get all of it out. But that is part of the experience, because we decided to come out here, take a little hike, and record out here for you guys, because it's funsies, and we hope you'll be entertained by our efforts. So let's talk about a specific focus for today. Self-awareness is a great starting point. I want to give an example of why we talk about so many different topics instead of just focusing on one. And the reason why is because they're all connected, right? Life is a big thing, and many things are related to how we experience life. But one of the biggest things that influences how we experience life is our interactions, our relationships, our connections to others. That's such a huge thing. So, Vaughn, what is your take on just generally about the importance of how we interact or connect with other people? How important is that to life?
I mean, I believe that it's one of the most important things that you can ever have in your life, because if you think about it, if you are isolated, you are lonely, it feels like you don't even want to live. And the reason why people that are in jail, they have this isolation space.
Oh yeah, when they put you in what's it called? Solitary confinement.
Solitary, yes, is because they're being isolated, and that's the worst thing that you can do to a human being, because we all need connection, you know. And when we are able to connect with other people, it just automatically enhance our relationship with with work, with others, with yourself. However, like we said, it has to come from within first, and then it will follow through.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with leadership. Some people be like, you guys talk about leadership, talk about motivation, talk about this. And we're not interested in motivation per se. If you feel motivated, then do something with it. It's like energy, it's like currency, it's like something you use. It's like taking a shower, brushing your teeth. It's something that you're going to feel and experience. It will come and go. If you imagine that every feeling or every emotion is energy, emotion, you have an opportunity to use it. It's just going to become, what do you choose to use it for? And we talk about leadership because leadership is a set of principles, rules, or guidelines that will help you to have better interactions with other people. So let's start talking about a bunch of different examples of where leadership is directly correlated or connected to interacting with others. Vaughn, what's an example where you can think of leadership equals interacting with people?
I think your ability to inspire other people and being able to communicate your ideas to move people into the right path.
Yeah.
That's an example.
Yeah, I would say that's a great example of what it looks like in practice. For me, leadership is like this. If I think of a direct connection, I would think something like you're a parent and you have kids. You're a teacher and you have students. You're in a friend group and everyone seems a little lost or indecisive, but something needs to be happening. A decision needs to be made. Those are all leadership opportunities as far as I'm concerned. There could be something going on in the public space. You could be at the store, something wrong is happening. Everyone's kind of observing and watching. Maybe somebody fell down on the floor and they're experiencing some type of medical issue. Are you the person who goes, yo, we need to call an ambulance, and does anyone know how to do XYZ? That's leadership in motion. And these are all ways that you're going to interact with other people. If you're a leader in your community in any way, shape, or form, these are all forms of interacting with people, examples of interacting with people. And the reason why you want to be good at leadership is because it'll make you more effective at how you interact with people. And when you are able to interact with people well, there generally tends to be more positive outcomes, not just for you, but for the people you're interacting with as well. That's what I mean more so of that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think as a leader, you don't want to be just a bystander. If there's somebody maybe needs some medical help, for the most part, what we see in the social media, sometimes they just watch.
Right.
And,
terrible.
We need more leaders who would do more actions to make things better.
Absolutely. I would like to present this question to you.
Okay.
When you're teaching students, if you're working with students, not clients, by the way, but students or clients, but if you're working with students and you're teaching them something, right? What happens what's the difference between you doing well? What's the difference in the outcome? If you are doing well, you're hitting all your leadership stuff as you should well, versus like when you're missing some of the beats on your leadership skills, how does that turn out for the students?
Students, first of all, are happy. They want to come back to you.
Right.
Because you are improving their lives and making a difference. And if I'm not prepared, actually, it all comes to a preparation, right? So if I really want to make this the best session or get the most out of it, then I would prefer first and see how can I serve and make them, get better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then what happens if you are missing all the marks? Like, how does that affect the students?
They don't want to go back. They'll be mad at you. It'll be, it wouldn't be a good interaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you nailed it. Like, it's going to be poor for them. It's going to be poor for you. And one of the things to think about in that moment is like the responsibility of being a leader, and that is like on us, right? So if we drop the ball there, not only are the students going to potentially not receive all that they could, but if you're watching yourself in any shape or form, if you have some level of self-awareness, you might start to go, wow, I could have probably done that a little bit better. Or if you see that you had a negative impact on others, you might start to question your own ability. So here we go, start feeding the self-doubt, maybe some of the negative self-talk, right? That's why learning those skills, any skill, anything that we talk about, is very important to get good at it, all of it, whatever we're talking about. Like, it's important because there's always a ripple effect. We're always connected. So like how we show up for the students, especially if they're young, that influences the rest of their day and impacts how they're going to show up and interact with other people.
It is a ripple effect. And that's why we have to be very mindful with how we interact, especially with the young people, because that will impact on their interaction with other people, their parents, friends, or whoever they're interacting with. So what we want to give them this positive benefit. So that means we are prepared, ready to serve, make this kid the best that they could be.
That's right. Offer them all the space and opportunity, whatever they need to get there. So that's leadership. And that's an example. It's a direct example of how leadership plays into how we interact with other people. So that's why we talk about it. It's not just for business sake. It's not just for leading teams. But whenever we are choosing to interact with other people, you are doing something. And if you're leading and you do a good job as a leader in any small shape or form, there's going to be a positive outcome. And when you miss, it's going to be felt. It's going to be a negative outcome for you and the people around you. Anything else on leadership before we move to the next topic?
If you fail on your leadership, that is just a learning curve. Don't give up. Just, keep on going. Learn from the mistake and get better from there.
That's it. 100% though. Cool. Let's switch it up. So from leadership, people usually associate leadership with like sports or business, right? That kind of stuff. Let's do a little biology. We're going to talk about our emotions and our feelings, right? And we already know that that directly plays a role. But before we go to there, let's stop by the biology and let's talk a little bit about the importance of either nutrition or good sleep. How does that play a role in how we show up for other people?
Oh, that's everything. I think let's start with the nutrition, right? So if we are feeding our temple with bad stuff, then we are going to have low energy. We're gonna feel it in our body. We're gonna feel it emotionally. We're gonna feel it mentally, and that's the reason why we had to take care of our body by nourishing them with good foods such as vegetable, fruits, lean meat. Get all those right herbs, vitamins, and minerals in your body. And I think having a poor quality sleep is definitely going to affect you a lot. Even just having a 4 or 5 hours of sleep, for me personally, I get exhausted. I get reactive, and I just don't feel that I could maximize the day. So I think having a good night's sleep is definitely will help you with other things, and will give you more energy.
Absolutely. I think one of the key words you said there was energy. When we think about energy is like currency, right? So we can think of dollars, we can think of money, whatever other form of currency, right? But energy is a form of currency where there's that exchange and trading. When we're connecting with others, there's an exchange of energy. And some of that's positive, some of it might be negative energy, right? Let's say you have 100 energy points for the day and you only have 100 if your nutrition has been on point for the whole week or whole month, and your physical activity and exercise has been on point for a whole month, and your sleep has been on point for a whole month.
Ooh.
That's the only time your energy meter is at 100%. Oh, and all the work you're doing is completely meaningful and fulfilling. Or maybe you just went on vacation. It's the first vacation you've been on in a minute, and it's a nice, quiet, beautiful place to sleep, and you woke up fully energized. So you got 100 energy points, right? All right. So if you have 100 energy points and you keep running into situations that cost you 20, 15, 30, 20 more energy points, we'll still have a few energy points left, I think. It's quick math, but if we still have some energy points left by the end of the day, we would probably say we still feel good about the day. Yeah. It's usually when we feel like we don't have enough energy to finish the day or what we need to get done, we feel overwhelmed, start to feel all these other feelings, have all this other experience, is usually when we tend to be less patient with other people. Mm-hmm. It's usually when we won't spend the energy to think about what's going on, how other people may feel or how we may feel ourselves. So the energy, there's plenty of studies that show that your energy and mood have a strong relationship. They're extremely closely correlated. It's rare to have low energy and be in a positive mood. It's generally uncommon.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. That's why we got to be protective with our energy. Otherwise, it will drain us out.
Right. And the energy that we're talking about is the physical energy. It's You got the physical energy, you got some currency, right? So that's why it's important about getting the biology portion, because that sleep makes all the difference for your ability to show up. Now imagine if, let's say, what was it? I think Dr. Mark Brecka was talking about a situation where he was speaking with somebody. They were saying they are always struggling with something and they always feel bad about something. And then he goes, how's your sleep been the last, week or so? And, oh, absolutely terrible. I've barely been sleeping at all. And he goes, okay. And have you eaten anything? Did you eat anything that day or anything like this? They're like, no. He goes, maybe that's your problem. Maybe you should eat and have a quality, nutritious meal and get you some rest. So when you wake up, you're able to perform. Sometimes we get into these patterns so long, we start to believe it's part of our identity.
It becomes normal that they think it is normal, but it is not normal.
Yeah. Maybe it's become the new norm, but it really doesn't have to be the norm. Oh, I'm just short-tempered. I just act like that.
I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. Well, I don't know. Let us run some tests first, That's why we talk about nutrition. That's why we talk about fitness. That's why we talk about going to the gym. That's why we talk about all the physical health stuff, because all of that plays a role in how we interact with other people. Again, our focus is how we can show up well for ourselves and others, how we can improve the quality of human interaction. And this is why getting yourself tight, getting yourself right is very important in step one and learning how to better interact with others.
Amen.
Yeah. Bon, do you want to add anything to the physical or biology type portion?
I think you were very spot on that. I think if you are not feeling yourself lately, then check your nutrition and your sleep. Usually that is that's causing you to feel, sluggish, lethargic, or not feeling well.
Yeah. And also mismanaging your energy. That'll get you set up every time. Correct. Even if you start with 85, my day starts so good, but by the end, I'm just so cooked. You might be mismanaging, or your energy budget might be a little off. You might have a deficit that you're not aware of. So check into that for sure. All right. Third and final topic for today. So we started with leadership. We went on to, biology. So we talked about, fitness, nutrition, sleep, how important that is. And by the way, there's tons of mental, psychological, the whole body is a unit. So you get tons of benefits. Imagine that every time you do something that you should be doing, everyone knows what they should be doing or could do better. If you just did one of those things just a little bit, you don't just get a +1, you get a multiplier. If you eat a little bit better, it's going to improve several categories. Think of it as a multiplier, not, oh, it helps me feel a little bit better. It's going to multiply how you feel better in multiple areas. So just don't forget that part. So next, are we going to go to feelings and emotions, or should we go somewhere else?
Let's go to feelings and emotions.
All right, bet. All right, Vaughn, kick us off for the feelings and emotions. What we got?
Emotion. First of all, we have to define what's the difference between feelings and emotions. So the way I understand this is that feelings is the actual what you feel inside, and the emotion is what you emote. For example, maybe angry, happiness, or whatever emotion that you emote.
Yeah, I would say also, I think based off the work of Lisa Feldman Barrett, and it's kind of interesting listening to some of the other senseis too, like Dr. Brackett and even people like Brene Brown, etc. And Susan David. It's so interesting. Yeah, my perception is similar. Is that we have our 5 senses, and one of the senses is feeling, right? So we may feel certain systems in our body, certain things are happening. Basically, there's chemistry, it's electrical energy, there's stuff happening in the body. And we associate that feeling with something. And this is where that emotional granularity comes into play. Whereas if your biology says anxious or excited and they're very similar, but you always think it's anxiety, but you don't think of the word excitement, then the story around that becomes it's not excitement. And maybe you always feel anxious, but maybe you're partially sometimes excited, and it becomes a little tangled up. I would say feeling is what we feel. Emoting is energy in motion and the story around it, right? So if you think about the theory of constructed emotion, it's understanding how words and language play a role in how we even perceive or feel things. Some cultures don't have certain words for certain things, and they may feel a similar sensation, but they don't express that type of emotion. And I think that's a good example for that one. And of course, as we all know, if you're in a bad mood, you might be more irritable. Your energy is low, you might be more irritable, and you might pop off and say something. Now, how's that going to go for our interaction with other people?
Bad.
Real bad.
You'll regret it, and so that's the reason why when we are feeling this high in emotion, we have to step back, we have to pause, reflect, and then come back again. Because usually when we are in a state of, let's say, anger, we tend to say things that we know that we will regret later. So practice that.
Absolutely. One of my favorite phrases is, I just saw red. And I'm like, dang, this seeing red is so interesting. I forgot what Huberman said something about what's happening with the ocular nerve or something like that. But the idea of just seeing red, I think that's one of those things where this is why it's important to practice emotional regulation. Because if you get in those situations and you don't understand that how you feel in your physical body, it's not the whole story. Imagine, like, I am one object. Look at me. I'm one vessel, one object here. If how I felt here meant those trees over there and the birds in the sky and everything else around me and this other person next to me should conform, or that I'm perfectly interpreting everything else from these different entities because of how I feel in my one solid body, that is a bold statement. And I personally go, I know that's not true. So if I know that's not true, then I know that how I feel is not the whole truth of everything. And knowing that means that if I'm about to act on something where I'm feeling something that I don't want, I would say, oh, it's a negative emotion and I don't want to feel it. So I feel like I need to act out. I need to do something. I won't do it. I know I need to pause. Even if part of me really goes, ooh, I want to do it. I won't do it because I know that I'm going to pay a price for not being congruent or aligned with truth. And this is part of understanding detachment, like you said, pausing, taking a break, trying to regulate our physical body, our autonomic nervous system, so that we might regain connection to our prefrontal cortex and have the ability to think clearly about how we feel,
Yeah, I think as simple as like taking a walk or, go exercise, anything that will allow your body to get off that state. And just, that those are some of the examples. Whichever one that works best for you will help that.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't involve cussing them out.
Correct.
If you go on your walk and you want to cuss them out to yourself, maybe. I don't know if that's going to be a good idea, but, it'd be better than you cussing them out in their face and acting all kinds of some type of way, because that usually is going to create a problem. That adds to more problems. That's to more problems. Remember, what we feed energy to, it gains energy, it builds momentum.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah. In regards to feelings and emotions, I think that one's easier for us to understand how that affects our relationships. If you start feeling resentful towards somebody, the relationship itself will start to decay. You might not care to repair just because you have an unmet need and you're unwilling to discuss it. Maybe it's something where you need to co-regulate, but you're afraid to ask for it. So things are getting better and you're just blaming the person.
Yeah, I think it is really important once, like going back to what we talk about, when you have that heightened emotion, usually, your emotions hijack your brain. So your inability to think logically or think right or for the truth, it just diminishes. It's gone. So I think it's really important to practice emotional regulation, because that is what's going to help us, see the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes it easier for us to empathize with others. When you don't know that a negative emotion that you're experiencing has led you to act out of character, and that, oh man, I kind of regret it. I need to go back and repair and make this right. And you don't understand that. It's going to be hard for you to understand that other people may do the same, that they may act out of character and they might really want to repair with you, but don't know how to. So practicing your emotional regulation is going to help you to be able to see other people better in their own experiences and be maybe more accepting of their situation and provide grace. Now, there's areas where we talk about boundaries and things like that. You know, you got to know when to be wise for yourself. But right now we're focusing on how can we improve the quality of human interaction. And a big one is emotional regulation.
100%.
So before we wrap up, Vaughn, is there anything else that we want to talk about? We talked about leadership. We talked a little bit about the biology or nutrition or physical energy type thing. And then we talked a little bit about feelings and emotions.
Feelings and emotion. I think that's pretty much it, you know. We'll see what we'll the topic for next episode.
Yeah, so if you guys want to hear us talk about any specific subjects, or there's things you're curious about and you'd love for us to explore, we'd be glad to explore it. Just put a comment and let us know what topics, or you can email us. So email us, comments. We love comments, like, follow, subscribe, all the things that they say on social media for us to ask you to do. But we'd love to talk about those things, explore those things with you, and talk about how that's relevant and how it can be useful in your life. Guests. We want to have guests this season. So we have a couple of people that we've spoken with already. If you're a friend or peer of us or any expert in your field, it could be anything, honestly. We will gladly talk about how it relates to human interaction, because human interaction is life. But yeah, we're interested in collaborating with anybody, talking about the things. So in the comments, put whatever subject you want, or feel free to email us. We do Q&A as well. What else, Vaughn?
Yeah, don't forget to, you know, if you made it this far, you know, we appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you.
Very first episode, so we'll just get better from here.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we'll try to be more mindful about our picks. We just like this place that we're at here. You know, you can't see this view over here. It's a beautiful view, but, you know, the sun is blasting. But we did this because we wanted to put in some effort for you guys, and we're down to put in more effort. So we appreciate you watching, listening, and thank you for your support. Again, this is the Shift Training Podcast. We're on season 2. This is episode 1. And we are all about improving the quality of human interaction. And we want to explore that with you and anyone else that's willing to go on the journey with us.
All right. We'll see you guys on the next episode.
Have a beautiful week.